All right, I'll call the meeting of the May 21st Airport Authority to order. And I'll determine first as a quorum, and we'll move forward. Approval of the minutes for the April 16th minute. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the April minutes.
Do I have any discussion? Okay,
I'll
all those in
second.
favor?
Need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes pass. I just said bad things about you. Not bad things. Welcome, Jack.
Probably not the first time today.
And everybody stood up and defended you.
Yeah, we all at once. Okay, we just approved the minutes, Jack.
Yes.
The next order of business is the airport, the report on the airport authority operations. Chip's going to do that.
I'm trying to pull up the DOT report because I forgot to bring my iPad. No known issues of the runway at this time, except I was just advised that they're having an issue with the PAPI lights going out after 8 o'clock at night, so I'll have to get with Kyle on that. So, or just go out there after 8 and see what the deal is, because anyhow, because they should stay on. No NOTAMs, runway lights, we have, let's see, two runway light fixtures are out, and we have 3 underground transformer replacements in inventory. We have 5 taxiway lights out, your underground transformer replacement in inventory. All the PAPI lights are working. We have 1 in inventory. We have the 4 real lights. This is the latest, says 2 are out, and the bulbs are on order, and 1 threshold light out. And beacon is fine, windsock lights are fine. I think Kyle is ordering, I think, about a 6-month supply of bulbs, so we should have those in place.
And I'll add a little bit, Moody's has been out there twice to fix the real lights, and they've not fixed them. So that's a problem. I don't know what, I don't know what the problem is, but they can't seem to keep them, either, it's quirky. I mean, they think they fixed them, and then they go away, and then there's something wrong with them. So that's a problem.
Anyhow, I forgot my iPad because, the DOT inspection report, which is basically off the top of my head, everything.
It's in there, it's in there.
It's
Oh, it's in here.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Here,
Okay.
a summary of what needs to be.
Let's see what page it's on. I thought I was going to be reading off of my iPad. Let's see. Inspection summary, runway safety area, corrosion, erosion, settling, rutting in the safety area. Airport markings, clean the markings, which we're going to address that later. That's been addressed. Airport lighting, replace inoperative lights, correct the runway 1 reel. So all those lights have been repaired and replaced since this report, but obviously we still have light issues, and remove sod from runway surface and grade for drainage. Those are the 4 issues that the DOT inspection had over the summary of their report.
And they're in maintenance. I mean, they're not anything, I mean, they're just maintenance.
Nothing in violation,
Nothing in
yes,
violation.
they're all maintenance issues, yes.
Sod.
Got grass growing, creeping over the edge of the runway.
On the pavement,
That's-
growing over the pavement.
That's on the job that's currently going on. We're gonna get a correct that. I saw the picture. You can tell
Okay.
that's fresh sod right there.
We have
Right
to
over
do
the runway, yeah.
We'll do that in final inspection.
Even in this black and white, that's fresh grass.
Bigger pieces.
How often do they perform this inspection? This is the first one of these reports I heard.
Well, it's just because it's the first time I've asked for it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
They
get it.
come in.
We get it every year. I just haven't put it in I put the summary in there before.
Mhm.
It's an annual inspection done ad hoc sometime after January.
All right.
But I had to request it for her to send it to me,
Yeah, well,
unless you got it and I didn't get it.
I usually get them.
Okay, yeah.
I usually get them. Sometimes in the summer, but I mean, I think we always get them. Probably mail, but I didn't. Any questions about the annual inspection? Okay. Update on the insurance. One of the things I've been wrestling with over the last couple of weeks is insurance. After Chip showed me some pictures of what happened in Eufaula about replacement coverage versus kind of where we are now. And basically, we have let's just use the South Hangar for an example. I think the replacement cost value, and that's basically going in and using some statistics, some kind of what it would cost to truly replace it, is $1,730,000. Right now, we have insurance that would cover 90% of that in case of a catastrophic hurricane, probably tornado. I think a hurricane would survive a hurricane. So, we can increase our insurance value if we want to, and for another 95% coverage, 95%, still not 100%, it's an additional $350 a year. And to get 100% coverage, which is, increases it to the true replacement cost, it's another $700 a year. These are Robbie Robertson provided this today. Similar situation for the North Hangar. That hangar is about $3.6 million. To get 95% coverage, it's $750 more a year, and to get 100% coverage, it's $1,300 a year more. My recommendation is, as we think about it,
What's the deductible?
I think on replacement coverage, I think we'd get 100% replacement value. I don't think there's
No deductible on
no
named
deductible.
storm or anything? That's the question he'd ask. If it's a named storm, there's usually a 5% deductible
Okay, I'll ask that. I don't know.
at a minimum, which gets you back to not full replacement costs.
Yeah. I'll ask that question. I don't know the answer to that. The T hangars are adequately insured at a replacement value. That they would be 100% insured, but we would have a hard time coming up with this 10% of $5 million to replace the hangar. But having said that, my initial inclination is just maybe increase it 5%, but it gets expensive to insure against all risk.
Does that value on the North Hangar include the improvements that Continental's put in that building?
No, of course not. That would be that,
It's another $1.3 million.
no, probably, no, I think it does include the building, doesn't include their.
Not their stuff.
Yeah, not their stuff. Yeah, I think it
But the
does.
improvements they put in.
Improvements in the building, yes. Because we had it, because they resurveyed it in November. I walked it with them, and we went through all, and looked at the offices and whatever. So, could you replace that building for $4 million?
Not including what they put in, no.
Well, they put in a lot of fluff too, didn't they?
Yes. It's nice.
It does look nice. So anyway, long story short is I don't really have a recommendation. Well, I do have a recommendation. My recommendation is that we don't do anything. But I'm not that married to that either. So I will take any discussion or anybody.
So less than $2,000 a year would go to 100% replacement cost?
Well, $2,000 we'd have 100% replacement cost.
And we saved $1,200 on that hangar keeper.
No, we didn't save $1,200. That
We
was just
didn't?
we saved $300 on the hangar keepers, but so we really had to get aviation insurance, which was really slip and fall. The hangar keepers was only $300 as a amendment, if you will, to that. It wasn't quite as clear cut as that. But our insurance cost has gone up it goes up about $2,000 every year. I've been charting it. I've priced it 2 years ago. I went with Thames Battery and took a look. We've still got a pretty good deal. If we had to go, but every year our insurance goes up by $1,200 to $1,500 a year, just in whatever. So
if we went to 100% replacement, what would our insurance bill be in
it
total?
would be, like Ben said, it'd be $2,000 more a year.
On top of how much?
Oh, $38,900.
2.5%. You got to ask yourself, can we live with $2,000, versus a loss? Now, granted, though, if you think it'll withstand a hurricane, that's good. The chances of us having anything greater than a F2 tornado in South Baldwin County, it's slim. F0s and F1s, and that's about all we get here. A hurricane.
Well, that's right. That's a really good point.
I mean, we just don't get, I mean,
They
but
got
if
no
you think
idea.
it'll survive, I mean, if it's rated for, what's the wind rating on the buildings, do we know?
I think they're one for 35 to 145. I mean, they were.
I don't think they are.
I don't think so.
I think we
Those-
need to check the wind ratings as well.
How old
Yeah.
are those buildings, 40 years old?
Yeah, they,
They wouldn't rate it
Yeah,
back
so
in.
I'm thinking that it might be, because of that, because more of the hurricane, you know, propensity for hurricane damage, you know, which could occur every 20 years, you know, for us to make up the, you know, 360,000, 100, roughly $500,000.
take a lot of years.
Take a lot of years to make that up, so.
Why don't you find out if there's a named storm deductible?
Okay.
If there's not a named storm deductible, I'd be all for spending that $2,000.
Okay, name storm deductible and find out what the wind rating is for the buildings.
If it exists.
That's gonna be
And-
hard,
and
that's gonna
if-
be hard to do.
And if it includes CMS improvements or not.
We include CMS, Continental Motors improvements to the buildings, the offices and whatever. It just doesn't include their,
Well, they've got tended injury.
they've got stuff for their.
Do we know how many square feet's in the south hangar?
Oh, I do, but I don't have it with me. Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, they resurveyed the whole building, they remeasured it. What I do know is that the public safety hangar was smaller than we thought it was. You remember, we spent a lot of time debating on what that was. It was like 6,500 square feet. We thought it was 75 or whatever, so, but they resurveyed the whole thing.
The reason I'm asking, where we get the 1.7 million though?
That was what they did. I mean, they, you know,
Who's they?
they being CB Richard Ellis came out and basically as part of their, they have a contract with our insurance company, which is CME, which is the underwriter. They actually did surveys in November.
They were making sure we're not over or under.
And replacement, and it was replacement cost. I mean, they knew what the Little Richard, what the values of the,
And
you
when
know,
do they do that, this year?
they did in
November.
November, yes, sir.
If the insurance company or one of their assigns places a replacement value on there and it comes in at $2.5 million, are they going to cover the $2.5 million other than the 1.73
You think
if we pay for 100% coverage?
No, because that's over 20,000 square feet, and we're talking less than $100 a square foot, and that's impossible to replace at a 140 mile an hour wind load building.
Okay. So are we getting, if we,
I would go bankrupt replacing it at that price overnight.
so I mean, are we getting anything if we get replacement?
Well, I mean, if
value?
they're grossly underestimating the value.
Which they
though-
shouldn't be.
Right.
Because
I mean,
they-
it's in their best interest to put a high value
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
And they don't want us underinsured or
Right,
overinsured.
yeah, I mean, it's their, that's right, I'm just, make sure it
We
covers.
need to do some homework.
Why don't we
Yeah.
table it, and I'll do some more research, and I'll actually get Robbie here. Robbie's kind of our insurance, Robbie Robertson with, and he's been a good advocate for us, and he's led us on the way that we've gone, so.
Can't you agree with what I just said from what you're saying, Bill?
I know.
$150 a foot? 135?
I would say probably somewhere, I think we're around 125 on what we got in Bangor and Foley.
Same height as these buildings though?
I mean, if they're T hangers is what I'm
Or
saying.
you talking about T-hangers?
Yeah, T hangers, I think we were saying.
You're not talking about the height of the north or the south hangers?
No.
So we're gonna be 135 to 150.
Yeah,
We get into
that's
that.
probably about right.
Up
I
to
mean, you
today's
pretty much
wind
double what you got on regular T hangers.
Yeah. All right. So we can all do some homework on that.
Okay, so anything, just, you know, I'll get with Robbie, we'll see if we can put these questions to bed and bring it back to you, okay?
I think it'd be good if you came to the next meeting for everyone.
That's a great idea. Okay,
Joe, can I ask you a question?
sure.
I think Lee Lawson wants to give a report and we don't have him on the agenda. Can we get him out of here? He needs to go to all-star practice and my grandson's on that team.
Let me get through one more.
Can we
one more
finish
issue
B
on this
under
first.
this agenda item?
All right, let me, Continental Aerospace's Technologies, Tennis Environmental Liability Policy, they don't have it. I mean, we've been down that tree, they're supposed to have it, they're supposed to, as a requirement of the FBO, they're supposed to have that. Josh and I have been working with them for a couple of weeks to get it. We've asked them pointedly for a copy of their certificate. They've sent us a lot of other certificates for insurance, but they don't have this specific thing, so
They're claiming they're self-insured.
Just, I don't know what they're claiming. They claimed that they did 2 years ago when I went down that trail, but we're going to, as to be the FBO, that's a requirement. It's not negotiable. So we will work through that in the next month and see what we can do. Okay?
That's not in the lease specifically, that's a,
Yeah.
that's a requirement in the minimum standards of the FBO.
In the-
Which they are, so.
Correct.
By default.
In the lease, it says they basically indemnify us for all risk. And I'm not sure that's a,
Caused by their
yeah,
negligence.
yeah. Okay? All right, having said that, why don't we, Lee, why don't you?
You're welcome, Lee.
Not for stated reasons of board member Booth, but I do, I
My
appreciate.
grandson is on there.
He is, your grandson and my son do play baseball together, that is a fact, for the record. But I did want to come, Joe and I sat down last month and talked, kind of caught up on, we've had different discussions about workforce development, assets on the site out there and other opportunities at the airport. And, you know, it's a constant conversation about what do we do with the west side and the development of the west side. And, you know, it's the whole chicken and egg that we deal with every day in our business is, you know, existing product versus greenfield opportunities. And as Vince and member of the audience were discussing, you know, construction costs have continued to go up, putting a lot of companies in positions of looking at existing facilities. Give you an example, Ryder Logistics, which is a Collins Aerospace and an Airbus supplier. We just helped locate in about an 18,000 square foot building in Loxley. It was the only available space in Loxley of that size that they needed. In the entire Baldwin County area for the building size that they needed, we had 2 options to show them. One in Foley and one in Loxley. And that was anything in the 15 to 25,000 square foot range and above. Two options in Baldwin County that really fit their need for what they needed to do, which was kitting, some wire harness work for them, and then also the majority of their initial work will happen for Bombardier. So they'll be doing work in and out of Canada and down through here, and then eventually will take form of working with Airbus and Collins Aerospace as well out of Foley. So that's one opportunity, you know, to give you an example of where we are. And they looked all over the region, and they looked really hard at some buildings to try to make work for them that didn't. We were able to help them and the landlord there in Loxley kind of come to agreement, and Collins got involved as well. So, you know, it's one of those things where existing space is at a premium. Greenfield construction, as Vince can tell you, is just getting more expensive by the day. And we just don't have a lot of it, whether it's office or flex space, light industrial, warehouse. It doesn't matter what type of use. We just don't have a lot of it right now in our marketplace. And I think that's where the discussion lies with the west side. We have a large aerospace opportunity right now in our community that's of mega site scope. We have consultants in the company coming in the near future. It will have supplier ramifications to the project. That's another opportunity for the airport. But it's about being poised and ready. And the same goes for neighbors to the east and west of us. They're in the same predicament we're in. You look at Brookley, yes, they have assets at Brookley, but they're in no usable form or shape for supplier opportunities. So when the 220 volume hits with the final assembly line there, when actual sub-assembly comes stateside, whether it's interiors, whether it's wings, whether it's tail section, whatever the next iteration of the sub-assembly that's all happening in Hamburg right now and other parts of Europe that are coming directly here to be assembled, that's when our opportunity will be. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in just the supplier conversations we're having, as it relates to Airbus and Collins Aerospace, is existing space is a premium. Because they come in, they're being demanded by the OE, whether it's Collins Aerospace or Airbus, to have the space now. Come to the market now, get your space now, so that you can service us. Or take this out of the plant. You know, take this off of the precious square footage that we have for assembly and manufacturing, and your third-party, you know, initiative needs to happen under a separate roof. And we saw, I mean, we toured a wing facility in England over a year ago, and they've got about 1,200 to 1,500 people doing that work. You know, they're not going to be doing that at Brookley on site. You know, so those are the type of opportunities that are on our horizon, but it behooves all of us, and we've continued to beat this drum, to have existing product either really, really shovel ready and ready to go with a great, you know, program and price in place, or for us to get some product out of the ground. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I play with other people's money as good as anybody else. And I know I'm sitting here talking about checks I can't write, nor cash. But that's really where we're seeing from a demand perspective, especially as it relates to the aerospace aviation world. You know, maintenance, repair, and overhaul has continued to be kind of a steady eddy, but the OE side of the business, especially if you're on Airbus programs right now, is really growing. And as of right now, Collins has 0 Boeing content in that facility in Foley. So it's either all Airbus or other manufacturers. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Collins Aerospace, which is the former UTC, former, you know, let me get all their names right, but former Roar, former, you know, Goodrich down in Foley, they'll be celebrating May 30th their, you know, 45th year with Airbus, and they're having a big celebration, executives coming in. There's still a lot of conversations going around the big guys about expanding, having other programs of work here in our region that will just expand those opportunities. The west side is still a great spot. The topography on it is not great, but it lends itself to some smaller developments. I still think we've pitched it as one big site. We've pitched it as smaller opportunities. I still think that master plan that shows small to medium-sized users is the way to go. And unfortunately, a lot of developments, whether they be industrial, commercial, residential, that first one has to happen to get the momentum rolling and the ball going to see others happen. We've talked about cutting in a road to show some activity or get kind of the design and the scheme going, and maybe get a couple existing folks in our region turned on about it and get them to maybe be the first group to go ahead and strike. I still think that's an opportunity. I'm sorry, right behind you, Jack. But, you know, all those are options for us. It's just getting that first vertical product, vertical tenant out of the ground on the west side, showing the vision for it. We've had some discussion around expanding the training center there. Honestly, I think that, you know, as far as coastal goes, there's opportunity on the horizon there, but I think as far as K through 12 goes, there are conversations at both of those entities where they are full up with their capital demands and needs right now for anything in the near term to happen as far as expanding the training center. We're still continue to have conversations with our existing industry in the aerospace and aviation business that, you know, apprenticeships are needed, more pipeline building of the workforce is needed, and we're hearing that. We're trying to address that both on the K through 12 side and the 2-year side, and both parties are at the table to address that need. We just had an apprentice signing day down at Collins Aerospace where they actually signed 3 high school students to apprenticeships, and one was a legacy from an employee their son, and then 2 high school students, one from Fairhope, one from Foley, and one from North Baldwin, all signed apprenticeship deals at Collins Aerospace last month. So, and all could be ready to go to work when they finish there. So those type of things are happening. They've got to happen with a lot more volume and a lot more activity around it. But we're making headway in that arena. The folks in Fairhope, the companies in Fairhope are telling us the same thing. You know, workforce is at a premium. And finding the folks in the pipeline, a lot of the folks that are graduating with the A&P license, they're just getting great deals in other parts of the country right now from a pay standpoint. So, you know, that's kind of my report. I know, Joe, you and I talked about kind of how do we move it forward, how do we get dirt turning. You know, that's where a lot of folks like to see activity. I can tell you there's activity there, but it's definitely, we're back to the vertical product versus greenfield. And we do have deals that come to us that have time to build it. and want to build it and have the timeline, but right now we're at a point where vertical product is definitely at a premium. And if we had it, we could move it. And I gave you the rider legit. We haven't been really public with that yet because they just haven't wanted to be public with it. But we definitely, worked with them, their corporate entity, Collins, and their real estate folks to find them and scrounge around to find them an opportunity for them to be here in our community. And we continue to do that every week. It's just a day in, day out unfortunate scenario for us, but we're not in some vacuum alone in that regard. So, we'll continue to talk to Dr. Egerton and his group about the opportunity for successful airports to find opportunities for spec building, opportunities for partners to come to the table to help us potentially with a spec building scenario. I still think that's the way to go for the west side if we can make it happen. But it's going to take a little bit of skin from everybody and some commitment financially to help get vertical product out of the ground on a spec basis. I'm happy to answer any questions any of you, the board, may have.
Do you think it would help us on the west side? We're trying to get one tenant there, and we won't have one big building, but maybe if we have the same, this wouldn't be a Volcker type project. This would be a different engineer type project where we want to develop the land on paper, and we could have one big site, we could have 3 big sites. Here's our roads, have it established, have it set up, the property lines are moving, but have something a little more concrete than, hey, here it is, what you think?
Yeah, I think if you definitely want to,
We'd have to spend some
define it. Yeah, define the development scheme there, and then maybe even go clear the first site, to show it. And that's not very expensive.
Clear and grade it. It doesn't show very well the Pineywood Forest is rolling.
True.
We were talking about putting a road on the east side of that would service that building and the parking lot behind it. There's our entrance to get in.
We did all the cut and fill work for that. Scott did all that, as part of the Continental.
But we never really defined it on paper and said, here's, we did.
We did not, but we could get those, he's got all that numbers.
And here's where we could put this one building where we could divide it 3 lots, 4 lots, 5 lots, and those lines, kind of like our leases on the other side, are movable to show somebody the potential.
I think the one big prospect scenario is one we've had a couple shots at, but they've been few and far between. And I definitely think if this board is comfortable with getting into the medium, small to medium sized user and go ahead and set a development plan and adopt it and roll with it and then be able to market it that way, I think that can definitely prove beneficial.
How big a building would be small to medium?
In my world, in my world, small to mediums, probably 100,000 and under.
Well,
But I'm looking.
Continental was,
Put up 3 of those tomorrow.
Continental was only 75,000. I couldn't imagine anything bigger.
But we're dealing with opportunities in 1 million square feet. So that's my range. But I think,
That's a big
I think small in our market is 7,500 to 15,000, 20,000 square feet. Probably 25,000 and under is what everybody around here would say small. 25 to 75 to 100 is probably medium to big. Yes, Pam.
If Brexit goes through, do you see Collins moving what they have in the UK, out of the UK?
No, I think where the UK investments that Collins has, that Airbus has, that frankly Boeing and everybody else has is in Europe for a reason. I think from where I sit, I think the volume that will.
I just meant the UK because of Brexit.
I'm not a Brexit expert, but I know that the investments they have there are strategic because they go to other places in Europe, and then eventually the U.S. There are flaps on the A320 and 220 that are made in Morocco, go one other place in Europe before they go to Hamburg and come over here. So, this is a worldwide economy. It's not shrinking at any time soon. The price is just going to go up.
Thanks.
No, thank you. Appreciate the working relationship we have with the board, and we'll continue to we continue to market the property every day, every opportunity we have. So anything we can do to help you in the design process, if y'all do want to move forward with that, we're happy to participate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Yep.
Okay, moving along back to the agenda. Item number 6 in your package is an approval of an MOU. Is review and approval of an MOU for the use of the Academy of the City of Fairhope as a safe place. Jack, have you looked at that?
I'm familiar with it. And I'm in favor of it.
Well, good. So a lot of people touched this. Baldwin County Board of Education was kind of not the holdup, but certainly they took a lot of pains with it. Josh did yeoman's work on it, and the attorney, Marcus, did too. So what it is basically allows them to use in case of a hurricane, basically use the academy as a place for the shelter in place, if you will, for key city employees and their families.
I move that we accept it as presented and authorize the chairman to sign.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the MOU as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 7 is approval, review and approval of power washing and restriping, or restriping the runway and taxiways. Chip, do you want to talk about that?
Yep, I met with Mark Sexton that owns a company that did it for us before. We went out for bid that last time. He was way the lowest bidder. Did a nice job. I just called him up. He's willing to do it again. Indicated at the same price. We met today. And we kind of tried some chemicals. What he wants to do is use more chemicals and less power wash. So it's to try and preserve the paint. So that's so his price is $48.95, unless I'm kind of thinking for telling him it's going to be kind of a wash. The less power wash, yes, it'd be a wash. The less power wash, the more chemicals kind of balances out on the price. So he didn't indicate any adjustment in price, but pending approval, we've already got it set up to start on June 2nd for 3 nights. We'll probably put a note to him out at least a week in advance before then. He'd like to start as early as possible, so we thought we'd probably at least start on Sunday at 6 p.m., depending if, might shove it to 8 on the next 2 days. It's probably lesser evening traffic on Sunday than any other day. Last time he did it 2 nights, so that's what we're hoping for, but we'll plan on 3.
And we got 3 years out of that.
I think so.
Right at it.
He gave us our, this is an updated quote of 19, so anyhow, so that'll take us to repaving and repainting.
Yeah. So he would be doing both for that price, the power washing and the painting?
Just a chemical application to get it's kind of a Clorox.
Jack,
type
have it
thing.
repainted is like $90,000.
Oh.
So, I mean, what we would like
This
to
just
do.
buys us a couple of years.
What we'd like to do is hopefully get 2 or 3 years out of this, then resurface the runway, and then have it restriped and repainted and relabeled at that point in time.
And this address is one of the inspection summaries?
Yes.
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 Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
I make a motion.
okay.
We use same company again, same price.
And I second that motion. Okay.
It's a done deal.
All those in favor?
Can we have some discussion
Sure,
first,
I'm
please?
sorry. Jack?
I mean, about how big of an area are we talking about? The only reason, I've had a lot of power washing done lately, and and I had somebody that did painted the whole front of pressure washed the whole front of a condo building, which was 6 stories and pretty wide, and it was $2,000. But I don't know if we're talking 10 times that area
We're
or
talking
not.
the whole runway over.
Oh, the whole-
The whole
Yeah.
runway,
Six
yeah, one
thousand.
into the other.
6,600.
6,600.
Jack, he has a machine that's as big as this table.
I'm with you. No further explanation. I didn't know if you were
This
talking about
building
just
is
an
a mile
area
tall.
that's at the end where the numbers were or something like that.
Can we call the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of spending $5,000 to have the runway power washed and cleaned, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right.
The only one item is that last time, and Kyle, I think, helped it, we had to use the fire hydrant, and the city came and put an attachment on it so he could get the water. If we use Continentals, we just don't have the water flow. So Kyle called the guy he talked to today to see if we can set that up. So that's one thing.
We can finesse that.
Okay. That's the only other thing. we
And our
got.
new and improved
Jack, can you
relationship
get
with
the
the
city involved for a mile-tall building? It's a little narrow. Get us some water.
Okay. Nick, Chip, just continue on to number 8, update of the flight feeder system. Is that the proper, is that a good description?
Well, Vince has it at his fixed base operation. We were approached by a gentleman that he approached you about putting one in, and basically it tracks all the ADSB traffic that comes in and out of our airport, which would give us a baseline of numbers. It's not, it's gonna give us a conservative number of operations. You gave me the guy's number, I sent him an email, he never answered. He gave me a call, and I gave him a call, and he never called me back.
And then he called me last night.
Oh, he did call you
Or
last
he
night?
emailed me last night, like.
Okay.
And why, yeah, so
Well,
anyway.
is he still interested, or?
He, I guess, I mean, but
Well,
I.
we started down the road and put in a request with FlightAware, and I met with David today. It would have to be set up at Continental's FBO. They provide the antenna, and we have to provide the computer.
They
with
provided us the
wireless.
antenna, we
Continental.
mounted on our building, they gave us a wire, we ran it to our computer, and of course, plugged into our outlets. And they are using our Wi-Fi, we're furnishing the Wi-Fi.
Do we have to have a dedicated phone line?
I don't think it needs a phone line.
No.
David and I had that
It was just a
discussion.
Cat 5, they said that the computer wasn't needed for FlightAware, the unit comes from FlightAware.
Okay.
That hooks up to the antenna, you can log on to the system.
So y'all are okay with it?
Have we what?
Is Continental, is this something Continental wants to
Yeah.
pursue?
Okay.
He got the
David,
IT.
are y'all paying for a service to keep up with in and out traffic?
On FlightAware?
No, on anyone out there now. Y'all not you currently don't have a service with anyone, right?
Not as far as.
Traffic.
Kind of,
I mean, it's great information for the airport, it'd be
Yeah.
great information for Continental of who's coming
Yeah.
and when they're scheduled. Everybody, 2020, when we go ADSB, it'll be fabulous, but right now, anybody's on the IFR flight plan, it's still gonna track them in and out for you as soon as they file it.
I asked you this question, does it capture touch and goes?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they have an ADSB
So, I mean,
transponder.
even though they don't land, it would just still that would be
I'd
part
love
of
to
the
get
number.
that guy's credit card.
Wouldn't we all?
While it's
Well,
flying by.
I mean, just, and now, they've got to, we finished, it's a survey of us, and then they decide whether they're gonna let us have it for free or not. So it's not 100% sure that's gonna be it. But Gulf Shores has the same thing with a company called GARD, and they pay $37.50 a year. Excuse me, $32.75 a one-time fee. So
3,200?
$32.75 one-time fee they put for the installation. But so far, everything I've kind of gotten from FlightAware is, received from FlightAware is, you know, it's, so far, once we put the final questionnaire in, we have to send them pictures of, you know, where it's going to be on the building and those type of things, then, oh, it's a done deal. The caveat is they get to use the information. So that's you know, they supply the box, we get the information too, but FlightAware gets to capture the information, so that's what their benefit for it.
Is that something, is that information meaningful to you?
It's meaningful to any FBO, yeah, and it's obviously meaningful to the airport
Yeah.
itself.
No, because everything's about, I mean, we had to complete, for the economic impact study, we had to complete the number of operations. And we had
So you would have
a better
historical
number.
data to base it on.
If
based on-
David's out there with his line guys, and they look on there and, you know, their uniform's gonna be here in 5 minutes, tells you. Or they scheduled a flight out of here at 2:45, so you know they're coming to the airport. It's great information.
But that's an airplane that's in the ADSB system, so it's going to be mandatory for certain airspace in 2020. So what we're capturing is a bare minimum. We're going to have more operations in that. That's, you know,
That's
but
great.
we'll have more, that's just going to be, but it gives us, I mean,
Gives us.
we really, it's just kind of like, you know, well, whatever. We think that's what we have.
Yeah.
I think it'll give us a baseline of a bare minimum. We know there'll be more than that, but
Okay.
anyhow.
They're not furnishing us a report, we didn't ask them to,
Mhm.
but I think they probably will
Okay.
if we just wanted them to feed it back to us, but I know it's feeding to them. It's the same report by an email.
unless, is that the other
No,
gentleman?
I don't think we need to approve it, I think we just need to, my sense of what the board wants to do is go forward with
Yeah.
it. And when we
Okay.
get to something to approve, we'll approve it.
Unless I need to go back and recontact this other guy just to see.
I would keep them both involved, that way, we'll certainly get one for free if they're if comparable systems.
I think the only thing he was a little different was they would do everything, but we don't
I
do a
think that's
thing.
right.
Yeah.
He contacted me, I
Okay.
called him back, and he never returned the call.
Same
So they're
thing.
slow
Mhm.
on returns.
Yeah.
But I think they offered to do everything.
Okay.
I
We'll
followed
we'll
him.
continue discussing that, something my sense of it, the spirit of the board wants to move forward, and
Okay.
we'll
All right.
try to figure that out. Number 9, updating the painting of the North T hangar. The guy's on standby to do it, probably do it the second week in June, if that makes sense, David. Okay, so we'll have to get all the tenants out, give them a notification, but we're talking about the T hangar in the north of there, power washing it and painting it, and we'll see how it looks, okay? All right, number 11, recommendation approval of new tenants for the ground leases for the east side.
Wait a minute, I think you've got 10.
10, update on the east side construction project, Bill Pennington. Bill's not here, so I'll get that report. We're all but finished. I mean, I don't know if anything, the light poles are set. I think there's still a couple of utility issues as far as hooking things up. I think there was a leak in one of the water lines. Hank, why don't you,
Yeah, they located that leak, they had a bell busted, fixed it to 900, where tight this duct line. They located that leak this morning and made that repair, and now they just finishing that up.
and there'll be a final walkthrough in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks?
I'm hoping maybe by next week we'll have a final
Okay.
walkthrough. When I talked to Bill today, that's what we were trying to set up.
Vince, if we give you notice, could you be part of the final
Sure.
walkthrough? Because we'll have a checklist or whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get Aldott in.
Yeah.
They'll wanna come down, so we'll invite them. We just wanna make sure everything's buttoned up, that we know it needs to be buttoned up. And hopefully we'll make it much this small.
Okay. Now 11. Recommendation approval of new tenants on the ground lease for the east side. Chip?
Vince and I met with Kel of Executive Aviation, and he came in with all his financials and gave us he had his architectural drawings of the hangar he wants to build. It's about 100 by 120. 20 by 100 of it will be office space, so the 100 will be hangar space. And since he was in the running for one of the hangars on the east side, we kind of felt like, his name was in the hat first, so we let him have his choice. He wanted P10. He's indicated he's ready to move forward.
Okay.
We met with Zach, and they were discussing P13 and P14, but no commitment. You and I met with Duncan Giles, and he did not care whether it's P11 or P12, but he was just pretty much indicated he was ready to move forward.
Okay, so he said, actually on his application, he said 10 or 11, which is a little bit of an overlap, but I think we could move him to 12 if but I don't think he was just, yeah. And there's really, in my mind, there's really no difference in the hangar spots other than a little bit more fill.
And Vince and I met with Jacob Cunningham and Harlan Foster last week, and they had a lot of questions for us. No commitment. I think they wanted to get some ideas, and so we did not get a commitment out of them. So anyhow, but we know at least 2 of them, they're ready to move forward.
So what I would like the board to do is approve that we move forward with the 2 commitments that we have, with the idea that we actually send them leases and start the lease negotiation process with both Kel and with Duncan Giles. Is that the sense of it?
And going in order P10, P11? P10, P12.
Let me see if I can talk Duncan into going with P12.
He ended, well, when we talked to him, he said it didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
But, all that being said, Mr. Foster and Mr. Cunningham had their application in first, and they wanted P10 or P11. So if they wanted one, I would think P11 would be, since they were kind of had their desires
they
in
need
their
to commit.
application and earlier,
Yeah.
their intent to commit, probably something we need to find out from them.
How did they leave the meeting? Were they getting back to you, you getting back to them? How was it left?
That one's kind of up in the air.
It was up there. I mean, they're definitely interested. It wasn't a fishing trip, but they had some questions on some things, and I think we needed to get back with them on some, they had some questions about maybe changes in the fuel farm and stuff. And, you know, I think we need to get back with them and just pretty much let them know, I think what our plan is what the plan we've come up with and move forward.
I don't think we should deviate from what we've approved before.
I agree.
And they had some questions also about if they had fuel, who could buy that fuel or use that fuel? So if you had, and this is not what they specified, but for example, if they had their own airplanes in there, then they rented out 2 spots, and those people they rent to get fuel from them. Vince and I, you know, then you're kind of getting in the FBO business. And Vince, like I said, if your name's on a lease or you're not an owner of the fuel farm, you don't get the fuel. I think that's.
We did not tell them that, but that's
No.
what we talked about.
That's what
afterwards.
that should be there. But if Jacob's dad wants to be on the lease, then I would think he could be able to buy fuel
If he's on the lease.
And had his plane there, I
Yeah.
think he could buy
And this
fuel.
Chip and I talked about Chip on it, they're on the lease that includes the fuel farm. In other words, they're accepting all the same liabilities as
Sure.
anybody else, and then.
They can have a-
Then they're not an FBO,
I understand.
they got skin in the
I think
game.
that's a clear message. But I think he did say that his father wanted to move his plane over, and that he could be a, you know, I mean, he certainly has had some financial, I mean, he might just be a limited partner.
Right.
But he could,
But what we'll eliminate is Will just pops over
I
and
understand.
Yeah.
and says, hey, I'm
I'm
Oh,
friends,
signed the
sure.
lease to rent it, but hey, give me some fuel.
we want to eliminate friends and family.
Not saying they would do that, we're just
Yeah,
saying we need to establish.
And I don't want to
that
be in the
up front.
police, I don't want to be in the, I want to be the policeman either.
That's correct.
How many private fuel farms are we gonna allow over there?
Yep.
Just 2, right?
Yep, they're gonna be, total of 4, 2 for an FBO and the other 2 for whoever wants.
First come, first served.
First come, first serve. We've kind of batted around the plans, but I think what we're gonna do is probably put a concrete pad there, and they can have a truck, and they'll have to drive the truck over to fuel their airplanes, just like the FBO would have to get their truck over here to fuel planes on their. It's a fair way to do it. They have to be 50 feet from the hangar. There would be enough room behind those hangars if they want to put a pad, probably a pad behind the hangar. But I think that's consistently fair across the board.
Where are we at on the surcharge? We had discussed that several months ago.
On the flowage fee,
Yeah.
we're at 7 cents.
Did we not discuss bumping that at all? We talked about 7.5, 8 cents, didn't we mention that?
I think we discussed it.
I think
Discussed
we
it, but we
discussed an
didn't move
incremental
forward.
rate.
Yeah.
I think that would be more of a, what's the market? I mean, I'm not sure what is Gulf Shores?
6.
And I don't know what's.
But it varies up to 11 cents, from what I've been told.
I would I think that, I mean, now's the time to do it, but I'm not sure we're ready. I'd like to know what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, here's your lease, and by the way, we're gonna go up tomorrow, so.
Yeah,
We gotta figure out.
forget I said
the
that.
time-
I really
gotta
don't.
figure the timing out on that.
I want to get these leases signed. At 7 cents is.
The only one knows
I-
Gulf Shores and their 6.
I agree with what Jack said, we need to go up, but maybe the timing would be after we get some stuff done and get established.
I just don't want to mislead anybody.
And our lease,
Rather
and our
than-
lease gives us the option to go up.
And
And
the
didn't the
lease,
notice of availability indicate
It
that it
did
was
both, yeah.
at the discretion of the authority?
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's
it should
cut and dry,
come
it
as-
can go up at any
Any
time.
But, a cent a gallon isn't much when you really think about it, when you think what they're paying, so that's,
Yeah, and that gets equal to Gulf Shores.
Okay, so I guess we need a motion to move forward with the 2 lease agreements for Cal Jones
Duncan
and
Jones.
Duncan Giles.
I make the motion, we move forward with Kel Jones and Duncan Giles as far as sending them a land lease to build the hangar.
Okay.
And I'll second that, but I got a question. Are we gonna specify that Executive Aviation wanted P10?
Yes.
Committed
Yeah,
to
I think we
wanting
need to,
P10?
yeah, I
Yes.
think we need to specify that.
And then we'll have discussions with the other guys, if he's acceptable 11 or 12,
Mhm.
and then we'll go back to to Harlan and Jacob and say, but kind of where are you, and here's what we've
If they're
discussed.
interested, I think they should go to 11, and that if they're not, then offer it to Mr. Giles that he can go to Hangar.
Mr. Giles is, I mean, he's ready to
He's
sign
ready,
up,
yeah.
so, and he doesn't
Okay.
care, so.
And he doesn't want to fuel farm.
He doesn't want to fuel farm. All right, all those in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's good, so we've got two, we'll work to get two ground leases.
And let's make sure that on these that have office spaces, that they're all, you know, in complete compliance with all of our Fairhope zoning regulations as to what the activities are that are going on there. I'm assuming if it's light industrial, you know, it's
Cover
probably,
most
it
everything.
covers most everything. It's no less restrictive than, say, B2.
Right.
But we do need to check that.
I agree with that.
Well, we do need to, we do go through, Eric does review their leases, review the plan.
And we don't want to be signing a lease with somebody and then having to make the lease fit our, you know, we're not going to change our zoning regulations because the airport authority didn't do their due diligence on what they promised somebody.
Okay.
I think the notice
Well,
of availability stated it had to be approved by the city of
I understand,
Fairhope.
I'm just stating it for the record, make sure.
Okay.
Well, it gets back to having an aviation-related business in your hangar instead of somebody signing a lease.
Right, well, you know, but then, you know, we're talking subleasing and all this other stuff.
Now we got a candy snack vendor running back and forth. in the
Something,
hangar.
I mean, and it may be allowed in light industrial, I imagine probably most any office space is, but I would rather.
But in our
They
FAA
can't sublease without coming back to the authority and seeking permission. They would have to tell the authority if they were going to sublease for any reason, here's what we're going to
Right.
sublease it for, so.
Am I correct, Hank, in our FAA grant money states it's for aviation-related businesses?
Mhm.
So we, you know, right there, we can clear that up early on.
Okay,
But it needs to be done. I agree with you, it needs to be stated.
And we need to make sure that, conversely, we need to make sure that there's allowances in our codes for that. We have found some holes in there where things weren't covered that should obviously be covered.
any more discussion?
Let me say one more thing about that, Joe. We've got 50-foot, if I say this wrong, Hank, we've got 50-foot shown as lease lines in there now,
Okay.
which is 25 each way, 50-foot between buildings. And we need to be sure when we're doing this lease that everybody understands those lines can move if you want to vary your lease rent up or down a little bit. But anything under 30 foot from your building to the lease line requires a 2-hour firewall.
Yeah.
And that, at some point in time, when we get these things settled, I will get the site surveyed, for the lease. But I've not done that, so we could move those lines around a little bit,
But
so.
we'll need to have an
Okay.
official agreement on these lines as we go forward, but just so they understand that in their building, I think it'd be real easy for them inside that property to avoid that firewall film too.
Yeah, and it, like I say, the lines on the page don't represent the true line of what they're gonna get. They can be shifted somewhat, it's just the way it would work for them would be more square footage in lease versus an option for a 2-hour firewall to meet
These-
the city's code.
These lines running east and west are cut and dry to building setback lines.
Yes.
But the ones that are running north and south can be moved back.
Right.
So all of these lines between here, they can be moved up and down.
Right.
But that building setback line, that building setback line is installed.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't exist yet.
And that'll meet FAA and city regulations.
And I won't get them surveyed until the buildings, till we get a flight plan, this is what they're gonna do. And I probably won't get it finally surveyed till the buildings are constructed.
We'll probably need a survey for the lease, so we know what the legal description is.
But I have to get I have to get the building located on the plot.
To try
The size of the plot that they want to put the building.
Right, so we need to know the size of it, but I mean, in order to have a valid lease, we've got to have a legal description of the property they're leasing, so I mean, we need to move, if they want to move those lines at all, we need to know that ahead of time.
I agree.
And when we go over this letter, you can leave that piece of paper. It's got some real clear numbers on it.
This could only really.
Oh, we're at number 12.
We're number
13, I
12.
believe.
These people here.
I think we're at number 13, aren't we?
No, 12 is review of the
Oh,
west side.
Excuse me.
And we sent out a notice of availability for the west side last month. And we got one valid, we got one response to build a 60 by 60 hangar there. And I think didn't we vote?
We called it, we had a
We called
motion
it for a vote.
second. Did we have a vote?
We had a vote.
And about-
So now we're on 12, and we were talking about the west side. We sent out a notice of availability for the west side for the one hangar slot directly east of the public safety hangar. And we had we had 3 inquiries, but one person that actually submitted an application. And I mean, we can lay this over to the next board meeting, but we could also approve it and go forward and get them signed up too. I mean, he's ready to move forward. There aren't any issues with that site, are there, Josh?
I didn't have any problem with it. It is not part of what is within the CMS lease, so I wanted to make sure.
And it's not part of what's in the public safety handbook.
No, it's not. That's, if I understood the map correctly, that's where the helipad was, but that's a movable target, if you will.
And you didn't have any problems from an aviation standpoint with the 60 by 60 handbook?
It just, wherever that firewall separation needs to be.
Well, no, because we're moving it back.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I don't remember the exact dimensions, but from the east side of the public safety hangar to the actual edge of pavement, a building can be constructed from the east face of that public safety hangar, all the way out to the edge of pavement to that apron. Then the north edge of pavement, you have to be set back even with the face of the public safety hangar. Same for the south side to allow movement in between the two. Basically, it's a tunnel there.
All right, well, I'll let you look at it one more time.
Yeah, but I think the 60 by 60 would fit. It's just where, I don't know if it encroaches inside that,
The 60 by
that
60 fit,
firewall
no,
rating or whatever that.
fit
air
was not a
cap.
problem.
It would get close to 80 by 80.
Yeah, the 80 by 80 fit with the firewall, but the
Yeah.
60 by 60 fit.
I thought that was.
Yeah.
That's
Eric
what I
was
had
out
in
of
the
town
email.
last week, and we played phone tag a half a dozen times, and I guess he's been busy since he got back, so I hadn't heard back from him. But Eric said 30 feet on the west end, no firewall. You can build all the way up, put your firewall in to the state building. And then just like Hank said, as long as we're in plane on the north plane and the south plane, going east and west, we're good. And then on the east side, we go all the way to asphalt, which will get an 80 by 80 building with a 2-hour firewall.
Okay.
So this is a motion you'd like to move forward to
Let's,
enter into.
Scott, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Joe, I just want to check your notice availability. Says the authority will begin receiving sealed applications on Friday, May 31st, 2019, and will continue to accept applications until Friday, June 14th,
Okay.
2019. So the period hasn't opened yet for applications to be submitted.
Okay, so well, that's right. So we'll wait, we'll hold it open until next meeting to approve
But
it.
you're saying you've already received an application?
I've received one application, said they weren't interested.
But can you accept an application that wasn't received during the open period?
No. Okay, so you might say I have to ask him to resend, okay, I'll take it.
Well, I mean, you published a period.
Okay, point taken. But I will ask the guy to resubmit it during the proper application. But the other people that have responded said they weren't interested.
You got a tiebreaker when you get multiple applications?
Not really. I mean, I think the tiebreaker would be what's best for the airport. And if we had somebody who's gonna build T hangars, that would be best for the airport. Because you get more planes out here. I mean, that's the, but from the airport authority standpoint, all we wanna do is we'll get the ground lease, which they'll lease the whole plot regardless. Whether it's an 80 by 80 or 90 by 90 or 60 by 60.
Well, if we're gonna own the building on, going back to what happened years ago, it blew up and then we had to, determine who got what based on return on investment. And I really, we've been through this a lot, I really think we should have some kind of tiebreaker so that it's not, there's no gray area with that.
Right now, we only have one application.
If we have more than one, I think we need to discuss it. I mean, I agree with you, whatever brings the most benefit to the airport. If you have 4 T hangars, well, that's gonna be more airplanes, more fuel.
Fuel, whatever.
So I think we'll just have to cross that bridge when the time comes if we have to
Don?
do one.
Hey, everybody, I've been in contact with Joe quite a bit over the last few weeks, and I've expressed an interest in that spot. I cannot, and I think Vince as well, I cannot make it work by 80 by 80. It would need to be 90 by 80 to accommodate two 42-foot doors. Now, I talked to Eric a couple of weeks ago by email, and he said that you can go within, and then, you know, emails are dangerous because you gotta, no one's talking, it's just, you gotta interpret some things sometimes. But my point here is that he said, yeah, 90 is doable as long as you have your 2-hour fire rating both on the exterior wall and the interior wall. You can get within, you can, I needed 18 feet. I needed to be 18 feet away from that state police hangar to accommodate 90 feet. Hank, I might defer to you. Does that sound right, 90 feet?
I would think that's about right. I want to say it's about 100 feet from the edge of the east edge, the west edge of pavement on the apron to the east face of the public safety. I want to say that's about 100 feet. Yeah.
But the emails you exchanged for me suggested that the cost benefit analysis wasn't an attractive project.
At this point, well, at 80 feet for certain, I can't build an 80 by, I can't put in 2 hangars there, or 4 hangars really, 2 facing north and 2 facing south. But the initial bids that I've got, one of them was $398,000, and that included me doing the site work. If I tried to divide that by 4 hangars, I couldn't sell those at that kind of cost. I have other bids coming in. They're not here yet, so in deference to what Scott said about June 17th, I very well make an application.
We certainly, I hear what you're saying. At the time, I thought you had basically withdrawn the application process.
I just didn't have anything to submit yet, that's all.
All right, so we'll have our existing applicant resubmit as of May 31st, and we'll make a decision on the June 17th.
And a good update for y'all is that I've 4 hangars, and I've got 3 very interested parties, and I think a 4th would be coming shortly. And my lender says if I can bring 4 interested parties, I've got my financing. Without that, I can forget it.
And you're talking about co-op, you're talking about condoing the project and selling the hangars.
That's correct.
Can we, is that, Josh, I think you and I had some dialogue, is that something we can do?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the attorney's report.
Is that, you know, we're talking about condoing the hangars, is that something we can do legally?
He's talking about building like 4 T hangars and
Sure.
selling 3 of the 4.
And then selling 3 of the 4.
If we rephrase the question, Josh, can we subdivide the property into 4 separate pieces after the building is constructed?
But there's only going to be one lessee, right?
They would become 4.
4.
It would become 4?
And since I'm in the drywall business, I'd point out that the city's gonna make you put a firewall all the way around.
We'll have a cross fire
All
wall
of
in the center of it.
it, yeah. I'd be glad to do that for you. But it's glad, now your 2-hour firewall is
Well-
gonna be all the way around 3 sides of every one of them.
So this might be an issue
Once
you
you
need to
subdivide.
research a little further.
Yeah, I think so. This is not, I mean, this doesn't sound like the standard ground lease that we've talked about before that we have in place right now. This is
I know there's 2 rows of T hangars at Gulf Shores, and they condoed them out, but the developer that built them, he just sends everyone their bill for their share of the land lease. So I think the land lease is in his name or his corporation name. And so he's a developer, he's condoed them and he's sold them.
that makes more
At the end of
sense.
every year, he just sends everyone a bill, this is what you owe me for insurance, this is what you owe me.
As
for
long as there's
ground lease.
one person or
One
entity
person we
who's
can
ultimately
sue.
responsible for paying the airport authority, I think that is doable, yeah.
So we might could put that in a master lease, that here's the acceptable way this can be subleased out if you choose to,
Right,
or sold under a condo
Correct.
ownership.
correct.
So you'll research that, and you'll get us an application before June 17th.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, right.
Because that would definitely need our approval, because, you know, I might be one of those guys that buys one from them, and then I say, well, I don't have any money to pay my land lease.
Yeah.
And now the whole thing's in jeopardy.
Somebody's
Right.
got to be on the original
Well, that's,
lessee.
you have an agreement, if they can't pay it, then you get the hanger back.
Yeah, that helps.
So you
Now,
want someone
what
doesn't
am I
pay,
gonna
so
do with
you
my
get
planes
the
now?
All right. Okay, moving forward, 13, David, you want to come?
The only chair left, full house.
Come on in.
Okay, repair of the weather stripping and rollers on T-hangers. We've got 2 doors that don't roll well, hangers 3 and 4. The old T-hangers, we still have a plan to work on those, but we haven't done anything with those as of this point in time.
This is the north hanger, the north T hanger, is that right?
Yep. And the repair of the weather stripping, I've been working on different materials and different modes. I think I found a good stripping for the bottom of the doors. We'll have 2 done by the end of this week. The plan is to get 5 a week done,
Okay.
so we'll get it rolling. If the weather's bad and we don't have air traffic, we'll get more than that done. But
Chip, are you okay with what he's proposed?
Yeah, I looked at it. It's kind of an interesting design, but it's better in the suites because it's a solid piece of plastic, but it kind of fares out.
Yeah, so it should be a rain and wind block.
So it should stop any rain,
Keep-
less rain or
It'll
water.
keep the rattlesnakes out too, won't it?
Yeah.
Probably not, as long as you have dogs in there. And they were copperheads, they weren't rattlesnakes.
Okay, sorry.
Both 5.
So on B, the additional landscaping entrance along the north hangar, I don't really remember where we left off on the last meeting or where we're at on that.
We all were gonna power wash it and come up with a plan.
Okay.
We said we would help.
We have power washed it. I thought for sure you had said y'all were gonna do it. The replacement of skylights, I contacted the contractor, we've just got to set a date, we're gonna do the Southern Avionics hangar first. The lighting program is in place, we've already ordered the materials, starting with that hangar, probably mid-June, we should be, have that hangar done on lighting, or at least have it started.
Okay, we've already authorized a payment, so
Yep.
you just send us a bill. Okay,
Changing the vehicle parking lot is still in process. We've got about half of the plan done. We haven't moved all the employees out. We got rid of the rental car signs. Employees are still right at the gate from the parking lot. We're gonna end up having a meeting at the end of this month where we're gonna move everybody off that fence.
right.
We haven't made a decision about graveling south of the fuel farm yet. Need for fire extinguishers on the north ramp in front of the FBO. There's 120-pound mounted on the front of the FBO, left of the door, and we moved the rolling fire extinguisher by the FBO for easier access, or if anything happens, somebody coming out of the FBO can move it to wherever it needs to be moved to.
David, can you clarify, was that the rolling one that was at the south ramp, is now on the north ramp?
It's at the FBO, not at the north hangar. It's at the front of the FBO, at the north ramp, not at the north hangar.
How much of those mobile fire,
I have to check the last one I bought.
okay.
It's
I think it would solve a lot of issues if we bought one from the north.
they're the covers like
That's what we have.
Yeah.
That's where the larger jets are parking, so larger fire extinguisher.
solve a lot of issues if we what?
If we bought a second mobile fire extinguisher. I get just a number of complaints about not having a second fire extinguisher.
What he's talking about, David, is similar to the one you got down at the
South
south ramp that's got the big wheels on it.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
I'm sorry, Josh. Okay. Anything else, David?
No, I have nothing else. Anything
Okay.
else?
Anything else? This is the time.
This kind of applies, but we bought the Fod Buster. Are we still dragging the Fod Buster around
Yes.
the ramps every week? or-
Yes.
Okay. And then the city, are they still coming in?
The city does it once a quarter, and I don't know what their actual.
I haven't seen him yet.
Okay. I mean,
We
they-
actually use the crew car.
I don't
when we
call
try to
them, I mean,
get
Well, Lynn was helping us. I mean, Lynn said it was on their schedule.
If we could get them to do it more frequently, I think Foley, I think the city does theirs once a month.
Yeah. And we've also added like, once a week, added patrols for runway damage, light outage, and fog.
Yeah.
So,
So they're cruising the runway once a week looking for fire.
right.
and
We
for
actually got a
pity.
turtle last week,
Good. All right.
big turtle.
Anything else?
Can we?
The email was real good on the runway closure. We really appreciate that. We got enough notice. We were able to fly our aircraft out of the airport before the runway closed and come back in after the runway closed. You guys aware of that? The NOTAM, we didn't know the NOTAM was coming out. David sent all the tenants an email. of the
Your
runway
email
closed.
list, that was good.
Yeah, the group email.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that worked out. He even updated us that day that it was still on.
This was
schedule.
Sunday?
This was, we
When
did
they
It was,
painted
yeah,
the
the paint.
striping.
Yeah.
Oh, with the striping, okay.
Yeah.
So a NOTAM was done, but also emails were sent out to all the base
Yeah.
customers.
David's put together a base customer email list.
Well, that was one of the things that came out of our meeting, so that was
Right.
good. Okay.
Time for
The
Anything?
only weird thing.
Let's hold it. Josh has got to leave, so let's, Josh, can you do your?
Yeah, I really don't have much. I mean, under item 14A, securing the airport after a natural disaster, that's something that Joe and I talked about on the telephone after a tornado in Opelika, was that?
It was an Opelika, but it
Opelika.
affected the Eufaula Airport.
It affected the Eufaula Airport where they apparently had some looting.
There's some looting and some
At
people
the
came up,
airport.
basically just, came up with onlookers, and it got in the way, and there was some looting.
So ultimately, the only thing I could think to do in that situation is alert law enforcement to the fact that there are people trespassing on the airport grounds. In part, each hangar owner is going to be responsible for securing his or her hangar. As far as the airport as a whole, I don't know that there is
Well-
any kind of plan to have in place to.
It's somewhat addressed in the security and law enforcement plan more in
I
general
called the police
terms.
chief and asked her if she would help us with this, and she just really wasn't very responsive.
If
She
the
just-
city of Fairhope's gonna use the academy as a safe place, they can also be the
That's what I
safeguard
thought.
at the airport
Yeah.
in that same degree.
That's right.
That's what happened in Eufaula, is that after the tornado hit,
Mhm.
people started coming from the other side of the airport, and of course, once they notified the police, they
Sure.
immediately took care of the situation and.
Just make that
kept
part of our
everything
agreement, they assist in securing the airport while they're using that
Can you
as
help
a
with
disaster
that
relief.
track? I don't know,
And
just a
on.
police
Just a-
presence.
Just a security.
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's any breach of the fence, we need to make sure that we can correct that as quickly as possible, but I don't know if there's any immediate solution.
And I also think, some of it's not as simple as having tenants securing their own property, because,
They can't get back.
when the beach gets wiped out, they don't let you secure your own property. Like the National Guard
No,
comes in and won't let you get in there, so.
Right.
And we have a public
Right.
safety hangar, and Alabama Highway Safety Patrol may not want people there, so there may be some, reasons
We
that
get enough city
people
police
can't
cars
do
there.
that. But I mean, I can have the discussion with the
Sure.
chief.
I would appreciate that. I didn't get very far with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in the immediacy of an event like that, the only real solution in the short term is to have the law enforcement
Yeah.
there to.
And that's what we
make sure
wanted,
that they-
just a police presence.
Well, and yeah, we can also contact the sheriff's department, talk about it a little bit too. We can do that.
Okay.
The second item, IRS audit of airport improvement bond series 2007. We got a letter from the IRS that was requesting information about the series 2007 airport improvement bonds. What we have done, and there was also, according to the letter, a request for information, but there was no enclosure with the letter itself. We have responded to that by providing the IRS with a letter from me informing them that those particular airport improvement bonds were retired in 2010, and that the 2010 bond was actually retired in 2017, which we all remember. So we're awaiting further response from the IRS to see what, if anything, they will want in addition in terms of an informational response. But as far as the Series 2007 bonds, there's nothing to provide, given that those have been retired not once but twice. Well, given that we've had two subsequent refunding bonds issued since the 2007. So if they want any additional information, they've got my contact information. We provided them with the Form 2848
To allow you to be the attorney of record.
to allow me to be the attorney of record for the authority in response to any informational request. So at this point, we're just waiting to see what, if anything, they want in addition to, or based on the information that we provided in response.
Now, you said that those bonds have been replaced twice, but we did bank financing this in 2017. We don't have a bond issuance.
No, it's actually
It's a bond.
Did they issue a bond?
They did, they sure did.
And they just bought the
Okay.
whole bond. Bryant Bank did.
Okay.
And,
Thank you for the clarification.
Rod Cantor with Bosch Bingham was the attorney of record for the two earlier.
2007 and 2010.
So he's on notice. It's really kind of in his bailiwick to defend us.
Well, it says could be random audit, something,
It
so
could be done.
half a dozen things.
Correct. I mean, this is,
You got my attention, though.
Well, but there is no telling
You
at
got my
this point, and their inquiry was specific to the 2007 bonds, so they may not reply at all, or they may say, well, okay, now that you've alerted us, please provide us with information on the 2017 bonds.
And they may reply in 2 or 3 years.
Right. So we are, at this point, we have responded. We've provided them with the most current, up-to-date information that we have, and in essence, the ball is in their court, and we are just on standby in case they want anything else.
What they're looking for is to make sure that we dotted the i's and crossed the t's and make sure it's tax exempt. And that they want that letter from the attorney that says that.
I would agree with that.
So as soon as we got that letter, and we've got those letters.
We have the entire transcript,
That'll clear
if that's
up.
what we need.
But it still does weigh heavily. Okay? Thank you, guys. Hey?
Okay.
Engineers report?
Get up to Dave, I got a few things. All righty. First off, let me apologize for missing the last several board meetings, but I think it was all worth it. I come bearing gifts. Okay. I think we ought to probably hold a discussion on the weight limits. I know you got that first.
Yeah, let's do the.
Let's do the stuff as far as the grants related.
Yeah.
We did move forward with the design and the bidding of the extension of the access roads around the perimeter of the east side. We had 3 bidders. That was Cunningham, Delaney, John G. Walton, and S.C. Stagner. We did a base bid for the east-west portion, and then a alternate one for the north-south portion, and then an alternate 2 for the fuel farm loop to service the fuel farm with the truck. So the reason for that is try to utilize as much of the FAA funding as we could, make sure we at least got something. Everything worked out almost perfect, really. So the base bid, we were gonna need, FAA was putting up $325,000. The base bids came in at $264. So by the time you have the engineering and inspection on there, you basically had about, I think it was $6,000 left in the AIP grant for just the base bid. So an event like that, what I always do is call the ADO, which used to be Kevin Morgan and is now David Shoemake. So I called David and said, hey, what's the likelihood of getting the additional money to do the other 2 alternates? And he said, well, with it being an access road, it's probably highly unlikely that they would be able to get it because other type projects at other airports that affect taxiway, runway, apron are going to take precedence over an access road in and out. So I said, well, can I at least put it in the grant application?
That's an emergency evacuation route.
We could say that for sure, as long as the gate ain't closed. But, so anyways, I said, well, can I at least put it on the application and request it? Because you've already given me an agreement for the $325,000, what if I at least put it on there, show it as the alternate in the engineering report? And then if you can't get it, you can't get it, and if you can, I've got it, and we don't have to go back to another board meeting to get another approval. Hence, that's why I had Josh modify the resolution to have the minimum which they had and the not to exceed amount, which would included the alternate plus the engineering services associated with that. So he said, yeah, go ahead and do that. So that's what we've got. And we've got all the good copies for Joe to sign. This is your grant packet. That Karen signs the grant application, which is the first signature with the little sticky, and then all the other stickies you sign. Those are the certifications.
After it's gone to city council.
Yes.
Which will be
It's on the
next meeting.
It's on the agenda. You work
And
release.
yeah, that's why we moved it up, trying to get y'all's in there because all this has to be submitted by June
Josh,
15th.
what Josh has saved us by thinking a little bit out of the box, in the past, we've had to go to have a special call meeting to do this, so we're avoiding that. So this will be the approval. We're moving forward.
Yeah.
And I'm confident, not confident, I'm cautiously optimistic we'll get the second phase. I've had conversations with the ADO telling, and it helps that we have some success on these lease hangers too.
It does.
I mean, so I'm optimistic.
What was the low bid on alternate one, alternate two numbers?
Let's see. 145,000 on alternate one, 130 on alternate two. Grand total, 540, man.
Alternate two gets us what we need though, Vince, it gets us that loop.
Mhm.
Alternate two gets the road, alternate three gets the loop, right?
Well, base, alternate one, alternate two. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get,
Base bid's only the east-west road?
it goes from 13 to the existing access road and stops.
Okay, and then alternate one is
From
the
the-
east end, north-south road.
Yes, to the loop
And alternate number two is the loop.
is the loop, yeah.
So we'd have to get all three of them for $540,000.
Yeah, to get the loop, yeah.
to get the access to the fuel facility. Okay?
Good enough? And then this is,
We'll get that money.
I'm trying, man.
Why are you here? Do you need to be?
I gotta bring you that so that gets signed. This is just a letter that talks about the bid opening. And then I guess the other thing is just the approval of the resolution to move forward with submitting the grant application. You're not accepting money, you're not signing yourself up for money yet. This is just to move forward with the grant application. And that resolution gets
And the
attached in
letter, the
there.
resolution's in your package for your review. So I guess we need a motion and an approval for me to sign the resolution.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the resolution as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Stop. We'll take care of that.
All right, and last thing on here was the update on the DBE program, Taffy Pippin, which is one of minority businesses that we utilize to help us kind of get some minority participation with the FAA. It's who does y'all's DBE plan, and she put together the plan this year. I think it was around 12%.
I think it was 10.7%.
Yeah, so the contractor that did the job missed the goal by, I think, 0.5%. Was the low bidder, but the other two bidders were only 3% and 4%. So naturally, I think and they did turn in good faith efforts, all of them did, where they advertised and they received responses back from minority contractors that wouldn't able to participate. And those are all inside their bid package.
And I sat in a conference call where she went over methodology and really boring stuff.
Mhm.
But it's something we need to do, and it's inherent as part of our, it's part of all our grants.
Bill Pennington and I learned, talking to engineers, they all use the same one lady for one thing, and then they get everybody else they can, but every one of y'all have the same
Every use,
one lady.
She's got a monopoly.
She's doing well.
Yeah. She stays busy, I'll say that.
And she's a national expert. I mean,
Mhm.
she speaks all over the nation on this.
If
and
you've
that.
ever got questions about it, she can definitely answer them.
And we have a hard time getting our quota, I mean, just because there are not many minority contractors.
Well, and a lot of it's just the class of job. When you got nothing but a big paving job, the only thing you got is a bunch of asphalt. Well, the asphalt is gonna be the heaviest weighted item. It's gonna be somewhere in $1 to $2 million, and you ain't got but a little bit of grass to go around it.
Correct.
I mean, and the asphalt companies charge a lot of money for this stuff, you know, because they manufacture it and lay it. So it makes it hard, especially like for that east side, this last job, to try to get a 10% goal out of a $2 million job when 1.8 million of it was asphalt.
You see, I'm gonna verge a little bit, but one other part of the DB&E plan is to make sure that subcontractors get paid, I guess, on time.
Yeah.
So we pay our primary contractor, which in this case was Cunningham Delaney. We pay them pretty responsibly. We really don't track how they pay their subcontractors, but we would be ultimately responsible if they weren't paying them in a timely manner.
Not necessarily. It's built into your contract, and it's with the contract that you guys execute. We have that verbiage in there that says prompt payment is required. And in the event that they don't pay, then you always have the option to withhold any estimates beyond that until they do pay. So
We
you
do
can
get
lock
calls
them down.
occasionally from subcontractors saying, why haven't I been paid? And I
But
say,
with-
it's Hank's problem.
But with the bond, no matter who the
Yeah,
contractor
they would
is,
get
you,
paid.
yeah,
we'll
you're gonna
make sure
get
they
it.
get paid. Might not be as prompt as it should be, but they will get paid.
Okay, then, A, did you?
Yeah, A was the discussion of the weight limits for the aircraft on the airport. I know there's been lots of discussion, lots of emails going around concerning what's right and what's wrong. The listing that's on the FAA's and Fairhope's, what we call the Form 5010, which is the ratings for the airport itself, is a single wheel, 36,000 pound to a 57 or 58,000 pound dual wheel. What that means is that is a gross weight bearing capacity. So if a pilot says, I have a single wheel aircraft, in other words, he's got 3 legs, he's got 1 wheel, that is a single wheel aircraft. That's not a dual wheel, it's a single wheel. The maximum weight his aircraft can be to operate at Fairhope is 36,000 pounds. He cannot exceed 36,000 pounds. Each leg is not multiplied by 36,000 pounds. Okay? If it's a dual wheel aircraft, his aircraft can go up to 58,000 pounds. Because it's based on the main gear configuration, which is the rear gear. Whatever that main gear configuration is, if it's single wheel or dual wheel, if it's a single wheel main gear, his aircraft does not need to exceed 36,000 pounds. That's what that runway is rated for. If his rear wheels are dual wheel, he does not need to exceed 58,000 pounds. Now, is it the airport's responsibility to police it? I don't know that it necessarily is. If you're advertising that you can land 100,000 pound aircraft here, I would highly suggest you don't, because your runway is not listed for it. You know what I mean? Now, it does come down ultimately to the pilot's discretion. If he damages your runway, then naturally you have a claim you can file on him, because it's clearly stated public documents that anybody can go look up. You can look it up on your cell phone. Any pilot can look it up on AirNav and all kinds of other things, what the rating is for that runway, because it's clearly stated. And so if somebody comes in there with a 150,000 pound aircraft and tears up your pavement when he turns off the runway onto the taxiway with his front nose gear, you can send him a bill and he's gonna have to fix it.
That based off maximum takeoff weight, I would say.
It's just the weight of the aircraft.
Period.
It says if you got a dual wheel configuration, your plane, that runway is rated at 56,000 pounds if you got 2 wheels, 4 wheels on the back holding you up. That's what it means.
So we need to put that on our website too, even though it's
It
on
is.
there.
It is on your
Is
website.
it listed this way though?
It should be.
I'll see about, I'll send a note.
I didn't think it was listed that way.
But I do know there's been lots of emails, and it's not to say that you're gonna have a catastrophic failure if you have a 100,000 pound aircraft come in there and use the runway once every 2 months or 3 months. You can just never know. It's not gonna be like it just punches through for that size aircraft. Now, if you get up to a 300,000 pound, yeah, you could see something push through. You know, that could happen. But
Hank, the reason this came up is we had a Global 6000 come in empty, and his empty weight is at the max runway weight. He asked the FBO, they're coming in for customs. He asked the FBO, can I take off max weight and leave? His max weight is 99,000 pounds. That's 70% greater than the rating of the ramp, taxiways, and runway. He was told yes.
Yep, and that's something I can't police. Only thing I can do is state what the facts are and what the runway's rated for.
And the way I've interpreted this, when I get calls, is that pilot's getting paid to make those decisions. And that's, you know, he knows his airplane better than we know it, and we're not gonna be in the, you know, we're not gonna be in the policing of the runway.
That's how they do it at Gulf Shores.
Right, the question is, we need to know what the number is, so when people call, we tell them the right number, and not,
Okay.
you can land 737s here, that's not.
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's ever said that.
Sure.
I don't think anybody's ever said you can land a 737.
It was in the email to me.
Or an
Yes, sir.
A322.
It was in the email to me.
That you land a 370.
They said you could land a 737 there.
Okay, well, that's-
And that was in the email to me. And that's when I knew right then that there was definitely some serious confusion here. So nonetheless, I put an email together and I thought that I had it clearly stated, and I actually even put in the email, do not multiply each wheel times 36,000 pounds. It's a single wheel configuration airplane, can't exceed 36,000 pounds.
You can land a 737 there once.
Yep.
We landed a,
I just looked up
And it-
AirNav, and it says weight bearing capacity, single wheel 80, and double wheel 100
Where,
on AirNav.
you look at the wrong one?
Oh, hold on.
Because I just looked at it, I took a picture of it.
I put the Jack Edwards back at.
Yeah, that's more like it.
that's not good.
Jack's over here cutting his eyes at me like I've been lying.
I put in KJK, my bad.
All right, so we
We'll go
put this to
there.
bed, I mean, Continental's on board with this, is that right? And we're doing two things, we're inspecting the runways on a weekly basis for ruttage, for ruts, and then we're also got in our 5-year plan to strengthen the runway to 98,000 pounds in an ARP project.
Yeah, the Global 6,000 isn't a big issue. They're once a year that they were coming in or something. But like Southern
Southern
Group and Southern Company and some of the other smaller jets have come in, we need to confirm that they're willing to wait on it.
And I think if before you advertise it probably, and it's just my opinion and recommendation, but if they call you and ask what your runway's rated at, do not respond with, what do you have? Respond with, I can take this runway's rated at a single wheel, 36,000 pound aircraft.
Every website you go to, when you type KCQ up, it's on there.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and that's what you need to respond with, and then it's on to them, because they're gonna know how much they're gonna come in, how much they're gonna weigh when they landing, they know how much fuel they're gonna take off with after they fill back up. It's their responsibility to know the weight of their aircraft. It's not recommended that you give them a comfortable sense of, yeah, just come on in here, because all they're gonna do is use that against you and say, you told me I could land here. And then it opens the door up for lawsuits. You tell him what the number is and let him make the call. And if he damages the pavement, he was told what the number was, plus it's published. The airport can't get in trouble, is basically what I'm saying. And you can't get in trouble.
By the way, Fairhope says 36 and 58.
That's what I figured.
That's good. That's good. All right,
Hopefully we can fix that in a couple of years, get it higher.
we beat that to death. Anything
Yeah.
else?
I think that's it for me.
I think I got a quick question.
Okay.
We were wondering last meeting what this edge lighting was here.
That is just the edge lighting around the new taxiway that comes off the runway.
Oh,
You have
okay.
new blue lights that
Gotcha.
delineate the taxiway.
Gotcha, thanks.
And they should be done with that by now.
Anything else for Hank? As always, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Hank.
You want to run by that real quick?
Yeah, I can. It will take just a minute. And we probably do need to, and this is something that you guys can make a decision on. I'm gonna fold this. Let me lay it on the table. This line, although we show this, we refer to this line as a building restriction line. You sitting too far away from this now?
Let's see.
Okay.
Stand up.
Although we refer to this as a building restriction line, what we chose to do in the early stages was do a minimum setback from that building restriction line of 50 feet. This line is set 65.5 feet off of that center line for the aircraft, which is called the taxiway OFA, the object-free area, meaning nothing can be in between that line and this line, so that aircraft can taxi and not hit anything. So the intent of moving the building back 50 feet was so that if somebody wanted to service their aircraft outside the building in front of the door, they still wouldn't impede traffic coming down this taxiway. So if the decision is that that's the way the board wants to go with it, then we probably need to move this building restriction line back to that point on this plan and represent it that way so that it's not misinterpreted as being, okay, if this is my building restriction line, I can actually put my hangar all the way up to it, because they can But then if they ever pull their airplane out to wash it or do whatever, now they're in the OFA of the taxiway.
Because we really wanted to find that as our line, period, so we
Yeah.
don't have staggered hangers, and obviously somebody out front with it should be.
So doesn't that cost, isn't that a lot more concrete to pour? I mean.
Oh, yeah, it's 50 feet,
Yeah.
100-foot
So
wide.
that's gonna cost, and that's gonna, add the cost to the hangars. I guess
Well,
that
if
costs
you
it.
have a fuel farm, you can't legally fuel your plane inside the hangar anyway. You need somewhere to pull it
So
outside
you
without
put-
obstructing
So you would
everybody
put
else
it, you would feel it on your part of the,
on that 50-foot area.
and I do wanna keep them on the line if we can. I mean, I don't know if
That's
that's.
what I was talking about. If we made that line our minimum setback line either way, north or south, as far as those go, then that becomes our line.
So that's 50 feet to the taxiway?
It's 50 feet to the OFA,
And then.
65.5 feet to the center line of the taxiway.
Right, center line of taxi.
Which that is 40 feet. So you basically 90 feet from that edge of pavement.
I just have to think through that. That's a lot more concrete.
You're gonna have it on one side of your building and the other. This one's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
gonna be a
yeah.
little thicker. So you can park your cars on the other side.
Yeah, all right. Leave that with us, and we'll try to
Okay.
clarify that in the lease.
Anything else you would need me to go over on that, Vince? That is.
Hey, I got that 40-foot you got. You sure I understood it right?
This,
Yeah.
that's just the easement for the road,
Each
Aye.
way? Is that 40 feet each way?
20 feet each way.
Okay.
From center line.
Okay, thanks.
Amy, you're up. Treasurer's report.
It's for notes. Okay. Let's see, I still have not met with the city to go over these year-end adjustments, so hopefully this month I'll be doing it.
Okay.
If we look at the treasurer's report, on the revenue side, we're still underrunning on those fuel sales, so that's adjusted in our projection now for the end of the year. We caught up on I think the city was missing last month. We have not received any of the ground lease rent yet, so we're having Kathy Palmetti send out invoices for those.
The ground lease rent from whom?
From Ray and from Alan.
Okay.
And is there penalties involved for late
They're,
rent?
I don't know that offhand.
Something we might put in future leases.
I think so.
I thought that was pretty much standard in all leases.
I think
I
it was
bet it
covered in
is.
the notice of availability.
I think Ray's is actually not late, but Alan's is probably a month late. And, it just happens, our leases very specifically say that we're not gonna send invoices out, but I think we need to send invoices out.
I agree.
I agree. I would think they would put it on.
I would think that, we just hadn't in the past, but we'll.
I think that's just an oversight on both of them's part. We need to send,
Yeah.
we need to send an invoice.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, our projection is to come a little bit under our end year total revenue. So, do that. On the expense side, overall, we're 11% under. I'm feeling comfortable on everything, I think, at least with the projection. So the insurance ended up to be a little more than we budgeted, but everything else is gonna, I think, kind of offset that by the end of the year. And before we flip over to the bank accounts, I want to be clear here, we don't show that our 5% match on those grants as an expense because it ends up to be capitalized, but we need the cash flow to pay it. So when we do the budget for next year, we'll be sure whatever grant, if we get 540,000, that's going to be 27,000 we need to.
So to put in perspective, the $9 million we've gotten over the last 4 years, it's cost us almost $450,000 of money that we had to pay. And That's, you know, we haven't asked this, so we've done this kind of on our own, that which is, that 5% is a real number for us.
And we've gotten that much from the state also.
We've gotten
We put up
5% from
that
the
much.
state, yes, sir.
Yeah, but, and when we kind of have tight, I mean,
Factoring, we need that
yeah, the net
$27,000.
income's kind of tight, so we gotta be careful where, don't get overextended. So, based on that, if there's no questions on here, instead of looking at kind of the rolling balances now, I'm looking more to where are they gonna end up because we finish out the year. So, the red one, as you can see, when we pay our principal payment on the, or I guess it's, yeah, on the loan, that's gonna pretty much drain our operating account the way we have it now, if we spend according to plan. Then if we go down, let's see, down to the blue one, this is the one for the grant. So we're basically gonna have 55,000, our part of that, our match of the 1.5 is gonna come out of that account. So in order to cover that, we'll need to transfer 20,000 from the Bryant Bank money market to cover that.
How much do we set aside for potential future FBO?
We've been setting $5,000 a month, but we're gonna discontinue that in
And
June.
we weren't doing that a year ago.
We started 15 months ago, so we've got $150,000 set aside.
Okay.
That's kind of where we
Is
are.
that the purple graph?
Yeah, the purple.
And we were punishing ourselves for future benefit. So that's where some of that.
That's, I mean,
cash
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, that's, exactly. So we'll have to discontinue that after this month.
Where is that money?
The purple, it's in the Bryant Bank. So we just went and moved 100,000 to a CD, also at Bryant Bank at 2.1%, 15-month CD.
And we took that out of the operating account.
We took it out of this aviation terminal.
Aviation
It
terminal.
was just
Oh,
sitting
okay.
in a money
Took it out of
market,
that
so
account.
now part of it's in the money market
Oh, I
in case
see.
we need to grab it. And
Still there since.
Yeah,
they
and
got the
100,000
dollars.
Okay.
is in the CD.
There's
So-
no restriction on that, we've just said that that's that
It's
account.
our savings
Right.
account, yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
okay.
So we got about 45 left over there.
Yeah, so if we needed to
So
grab some of that, we can get it from either the green.
we're okay where we're heading.
Yeah.
But doing what Amy's done is, I mean, it's a true cash budget. We know a lot better where we were now than we would.
Yeah.
And I can read pictures.
Well, that's good.
Oh, I need different colors.
I can tell.
Okay.
We can do checks.
I instructed by that when I was 16 years old,
think pilots-
memorized the FAA color chart.
Yeah.
I
what's
got
up?
a FAA waiver.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay, one more thing in the finance, I put on front of you, everybody, like a sheet, if you will, of fuel cells. And I've got both fuel cells by gallons and by revenue. You know, the only difference is that our revenues are through our fiscal year September 30th through October 1st, so that's on the dollar revenues. The fuel cells in gallons are actually by the calendar year. I think that gives you a pretty good sense of where we are. It's not in your, it's actually just a handout with them, so, anyway.
Yeah, I see it. I was just looking where we were in 19.
Anybody have any questions about that? I'll try to do that once a year. It's a little bit of a labor of love. It's a little bit of a challenge analytically to do, but, you know, we can do
It
it.
helps.
Multiply the gallons by .07.
Well, that's exactly right. All you have to do.
Challenging math for an Auburn graduate, I guess, I don't know.
But now we can factor in how much that penny's gonna be worth.
But you have to actually, these are
You got
actually
two of us
gallons.
here.
I actually get those for gallons.
No, it makes sense. I actually ran through some of these numbers and I saw the fluctuation, but the bottom line is if you do multiply the gallons sold by the amount.
And people say, why are we more
makes sense.
transparent and tell about the fuel cells? All it is to multiply, I mean, that's exactly right. So you can, you know, we get criticism of the capture fuel cells every month, but anyway. Anything else?
So I was just gonna say for the next meeting, because of this cash business, we're gonna try to get the budget for next year going now, so that because we'll have an empty bank account.
Let us know if we have $2,000 for additional insurance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of decisions we need to be making.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
What's the I mean, it's good when we can do everything, but we can't do everything. We have to do what we can do. And that's kind of where we are now.
Well, and we know that we'll be having some new ground leases.
Yeah.
Some revenues from
Yes.
that very soon.
Yeah.
Every ground lease is worth about $13,000 with new fuel cells and ground lease. So if we get 3 new tenants, that's $50,000 a year in new revenue. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If we get 23 new tenants, we've done some good work. Okay? All right. That's really, is there any other business? Does anybody from,
Something I'd like to think about doing, and I'll do a little research on it, I think we ought to think about maybe going to a boxcar gate access to the ramps, where you get a picture ID and a card, so we know who's on the airport, who's using the gate and who isn't. I mean, we get a boxcar from Continental, but, I don't think they track it, and then they have a code that everyone has that they get out there, and, it's, I think we have some potential liability, and I just think this way you just get a more accurate count. You know who's there. You know who. You're not necessarily tracking it, but you know who you've issued IDs to, so you know who is going to be driving their car on the ramps. People that are hangar tenants.
okay? I hear what you're saying. How much of a technology challenge is that, David, with our existing gates? Well, I mean, right now, the equipment we have, I don't think it will do that. I mean, will it capture who's actually, I mean, I have a.
It'll take a card.
It'll take a prox card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it'll
used to
take a
take a
prox
card.
card.
I used to have a card.
And so,
But I had a plane.
But we're just talking about any of the gates, or going with some type of, maybe a little bit more secure, instead everyone just has a random number. Have it where like going in the rear gate there
Rear
by
gate where we
the
have
corporate
cards,
hangars,
yeah.
everyone has a card,
Yeah.
so you know who has it, and you know who's issued it. And then, and maybe let the FBO be the only one that has the ability to let people through that front gate up by the ramp, so they have control of who's coming on and who isn't.
Yeah, it's a little problematic with shipping and vendors, because we have Yellow Freight, UPS, every day. So having somebody go let them in, what we do is, on our regular vendors, we have a security clearance, we have checked on those. Businesses that come on every day, everybody else has to come in the front gate, sign in before they're allowed into the other gate. The man-weight gate is probably he needs a card like the rear gate. And we can convert the other gate to a card gate too.
I mean, y'all pretty much see anyone coming into the gate that's up by the fire department.
Yeah.
That would be more Continental have control of that, but the rear gate would have, you'd have to have a POX card to use that rear gate instead of everyone having a general
Well, the rear
number.
gate's got both.
It has both, but maybe go
Okay.
to a POX card access only or something like that.
We'll
Just
put that
something to
on a
consider.
Continental,
Yep.
we'll
Just
study
something to
that.
talk
No,
about,
that's
just
a
an
good
idea.
point.
We
Yeah.
currently do use the cards on the gates, and people, the tenants that use the gate to access have the card. We just replaced two of them, actually, we just ran out. Like with Kyle, we're contracting with the guy that he makes them for like $25 a piece or something to get, we keep a stack at the FBO.
Maybe take away just a random number on that south gate, and you have to have a POX card to get through the gate, to get to the T hangers and the corporate hangers.
The south gate's still 2 former employees' backs,
Telephone
last 4
number.
digits of their phone number. I look it up every time I go in. I
So
should have
just the
memorized
thought of
it by
maybe a
now.
little bit more control of that south gate.
It's a very good point.
Anyone that goes through that
Yeah.
north gate, Continental has control over that.
Well, it's going to become very important on the east side,
Yeah.
especially when there's no FBO presence over there. I mean, and you're talking about maybe access from 13, which
Well,
needs to
Chip,
be
others-
extremely
We're
limited.
talking about changing since that south gate already has that.
We're talking about, but, anyone that knows the code can drive through there and go through that south gate without a POX card. I'm sure there are a lot of users down there that don't have a POX card.
I'm one of them.
They just use the number, maybe type down the
So
number.
we get a
little
card and take the number out, that
Yeah.
common number.
You know, you run into liability if some kids drive out, they can find out the number and drive out on the runway at night and hurt themselves.
It used to be by card only, and then they added an
Yeah.
extra number back.
All right, let's move on and let's study that. We'll-
I think we need to, something to discuss.
Okay. Any other business? Anybody else, any other business? Okay, do we have any citizens input? Okay, so,
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the general reputation, character, professional competence of individuals and skill sets sought in future authority board members. So I am making this motion, and I'd like a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of this motion, please.
We're gonna leave it open where we can come back and take action if
Oh,
necessary.
yes, excuse me. But we will come back after the executive session and take any necessary action before we formally adjourn our meeting for this month.
And Josh asked us to say approximately how long we thought.
about 10 minutes.
I would, let's say 20 minutes, 30 at the outset, just to,
Okay.
so can we call for a vote on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay.
So 6:10?
And Pam, we've got the order of, in the executive session, we basically made recommendation and discussion about replacement and renomination of authority board members. We also we reluctantly accepted the resignation of Pam Cradell as a board member and the resignation of Ray Hicks as a board member. So we have four. Well, we want to replace those two people, and then we want to nominate two people, an existing two people that are on the board. Pam?
Okay, so first, we would like to renominate for
A full term.
full terms for both Chip Garner and Vince Booth. Secondly, we would like to take a vote on recommendation that we recommend the mayor nominate and the city council approve Amy Pearson and Don Lagarde as new Airport Authority Board members. So, would anyone like to break this into two separate votes?
I think we can handle them all in one. If you want to make the
Okay.
motion of those four, I'll second.
All right, I'd like to make the motion that Vince Booth and Chip Groner are renominated for full 6-year terms. And
Wait, they won't be full terms, they'll be, yours will be 5 years and yours will be 6. I mean,
For the remainder of their
of the
term.
terms.
for the remainder of their
Keep everybody on
terms,
track. Is that okay?
for the
I was
remain.
gonna suggest that after we got a second anyways. Yeah.
for the remainder of their terms, and to nominate Amy Pearson and Don Lagarde for each for a full 6-year term. Is there anyone to second that
I'll
motion?
second that.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, mine's technically 2 years old, so if we want to name, we can just name it balance of what the 6-year term would be
Yes.
before. Yours is 1 year old, or new?
Now, yours is new.
Mine was up in March.
Yes.
Yours is 2 years too, so Don would take yours, is that okay?
That's
So
fine.
Don would take the 4-year term and then Amy's would be 6 years. So
All
that's-
right.
And then yours would be 6, and mine would be 4, and then we'd have them pretty well staggered.
Well, you
I'm
need-
leaving when you leave.
I'll say an extra two after it runs over.
You already had them.
Okay, so the motion actually has been modified so that we have corrected the terms for the
Name
people,
terms.
people being put forth. Is there any further discussion? Okay, take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? There being none, the motion passes.
And the chairman will adjourn the meeting at 6:15. And thank you for your service, man.